DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson here. Thanks for joining us. We have a great show today. Dr. Nora Schrag, who is an assistant clinical professor in the clinical sciences department at the vet school at K-State, is going to talk to us today about controlling flies. Different types of flies, different pharmaceuticals, and different applications, and a few fun things along the way.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America. A place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
This segment brought to you by the new Hired Hand Portable Cow Sprayer. For more information, visit cowsprayer.com.
Hey there, and welcome to DocTalk. Dr. Schrag, welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Folks, this is Dr. Nora Schrag. She's a friend and a colleague here at the College of Veterinary Medicine at Kansas State University, where she serves as an assistant clinical professor, and basically she's the veterinarian in charge of our ambulatory clinic for food and fiber animals here at vet school, and seeing patients, teaching students, and
having fun.
Yeah, and you do a great job. She does a lot of good things, not just for our students, but for our producers and veterinarians around the state and beyond. And so we're going to talk about flies.
Sounds good.
And it's summertime, and we start to think about flies, and so let's jump into right off the bat, what's some of the different types of flies?
Okay, so there's basically three types of flies that are important in cattle, or significantly economically important, in that if the cattle are bothered by these flies, then we're going to get decreased gains and decreased production. And so it really makes sense to do something for fly control. So the first type would be horn flies.
Horns.
And so if you remember that horn flies most of the time spend most of their time on the backs of cattle. And then the second type is face flies, and they, true to their name, spend a lot of time on the face. And then we have stable flies that spend some time down on usually their front legs, but definitely down on their legs. So those are the three main
So
main
where
ones.
they're going to be located is besides the general appearance of them, but horns on the back and face flies on the face, and the rest of them are down on the legs and
Yep.
when they get to stomping.
That's right.
Okay. So when we think about these different flies, what are some of the different things that we need to know about the flies that might make it easier or harder to control them?
Okay, so we'll start talking about horn flies, and the good thing about them is that they live mostly on the cow, and that might seem like a bad thing, except that makes control easier.
Right.
So they spend a lot of time on the cow, so if we put any insecticide on the cow, we're likely to kill those flies. And just for a reference point, it really doesn't take that many horn flies to cause a problem. So if you think about if the palm of my hand was covered in horn flies, that's about 200 flies, and that's all it takes to cause an economic significance.
Wow.
So, but that said, if we treat the cow, we treat the horn flies. Face flies spend some time on and off the cow. They'll be repelled if we put drug on the cow, but not quite as easy to control as the horn flies. And then stable flies are really the ones that spend a lot of their time away from the cow, and their larvae live in feed material, and so really cleaning up the environment is where we control those.
Gotcha. And so then the stable flies are going to be the hardest for us to put some drug on the cow and have an effect. It's really going to be more about environmental control.
Right, absolutely.
Cool. Anything else on the different types?
Just maybe as a note, house flies are really not significant economically to cattle. They're significant when you're trying to have a picnic, but for cattle, house flies are not a problem.
Yeah, the only thing on the house flies is that they can carry the E. coli or
Yeah, that's true. They can carry those
farm
bugs.
to farm.
That's right.
And more about having them land on my potato salad than anything else. We call potato salad media.
Yeah, that's right.
Because it grows a lot of stuff when it's sitting out at the picnic. But
it sure does.
Folks, we're going to take a break. We got Dr. Nora Schrag here. It's going to be a great show about flies. When we come back, we'll talk about some of the drugs and control processes in cows. You're watching DocTalk. More after these messages.
This Meet the Future Veterinarian is brought to you by Zuprevo. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Lacey Robinson is a fourth-generation producer who grew up on an Angus cattle operation. Her interest in food animal medicine runs deep. Working on the ranch from a young age helped develop her love for all aspects of beef production and animal husbandry. She and her fiancé have a small Angus herd in the Flint Hills north of Manhattan and market bulls to commercial cattlemen.
Some call it a come-from-behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
Horn flies are a nuisance and a production loss, so getting rid of the problem is important. What I like about the vet gun is you don't have to go out there weekly to treat them with a topical fly applicant. It has some duration, it lasts. You see the increase in weight gain, it just works. I've used it on our 1,500 cow-calf operation, and it makes me more confident in saying, hey, this product's gonna work on your operation too.
Through the generosity of Dr. Eva Gardner and Dr. Dan Thomson, Kansans now have the opportunity to support the wildfire relief effort by purchasing a signed and numbered print of the original painting, A Walk Through Henry's Dreams, by Dr. Gardner. This gallery quality print is only $200. Order your print today online or call 785-273-5115. Please help support the Kansas Livestock Foundation Wildfire Relief Fund.
This segment brought to you by the new Hired Hand Portable Cow Sprayer. For more information, visit cowsprayer.com.
Folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson, Dr. Norris Frog. Dr. Schrag is a veterinarian here at the College of Veterinary Medicine, where she works in our ambulatory clinic and is teaching students, seeing a lot of cases, and she is an assistant clinical professor in the Department of Clinical Sciences, talking about flies. We've been through the horn face and stable flies, and now let's talk a little bit about some of the pharmaceuticals or drugs that we can use to control flies.
Okay. So I think this can be really slightly overwhelming when you look at all the options out there for fly control. And if we really simplify it down, we can just talk about 3 drug categories. So there's 3 basic categories. There's organophosphates, there's synthetic pyrethroids, and then there's ivermectins. And those 3 categories work slightly differently. They all kill flies in a little bit different way. But what's really important, or the difference, is it comes to be really important when you start talking about resistance. So those flies will develop resistance likely to one of those categories, and then hopefully you can switch to a different one and get some control with that. So I think when you start looking at lists of fly products, it's a good idea to touch base with your veterinarian. All the drugs there's many different drugs, so you can't just go by name. You need to touch base with your veterinarian to figure out what category that drug is in, so that when you switch maybe fly tags or porons, that you're truly switching drug classes,
right,
and not just switching to a different brand name of a real similar drug.
Yeah, and that's what's hard, is to get past the trade names and understand what's truly in the
right
product, so that when you're making the changes and shifting them around, you know, when we talk about these drugs, are there different types of application or different types of, and I don't mean about how you put them on, but is there different times of the year that one is better than the other, or are they all just, is it more important to just focus on the resistance?
Well, I think that's really regionally specific. So the times of year that flies are going to peak here in the center of the country is a little different than when they're going to peak clear on the East Coast. And so I would say just talking to your veterinarian about, hey, what's fly control in my particular region and what drugs are most appropriate at what time is probably the way to go about that.
And I suppose it's probably more of an issue as far as resistance in places where we have flies year-round.
Right,
rather than
absolutely.
just having them.
Yep.
We don't have a lot in January.
Right. And one interesting thing about resistance is if you actually wait just a little bit longer for your fly control and you let those flies intermingle and breed in the beginning of the season without any exposure to the drug, you'll actually decrease their likelihood of resistance because they've mixed genes, and so now you've got some that are susceptible, have bred with some that are not susceptible, and so your total population actually is better off if you want to be careful, you want to balance it and not get too many flies, but really if you wait just a little bit until the flies really come out, you're probably going to do better from a resistance standpoint.
Oh, that's really cool, because a lot of times we put and we're going to talk about application next, but we do it when we catch them.
Yeah.
And we might be 2 or 3 months from when we actually need it.
That's right.
Folks watching DocTalk, we have Dr. Nora Schrag. When we come back, we're going to talk about how to apply some of these drugs and how we apply some of the practices to prevent flies from getting on your cows. It's a great show, great topic, something that bothers all of us.
That's right.
Come back after these messages and we'll have more.
The BQA Tip of the Day, sponsored by Beringer Engelheim Vetmedica, Inc.
I'm Tom Knopfsinger. This is the BQA Tip of the Day. We all should understand how important handler position is to cattle well-being and confidence. So the way that we ask cattle to leave a corner of a pen, the way we ask cattle to leave a holding pen has the chance to give these cattle more confidence, or it can actually confuse them. So as you get the chance to ask cattle to leave a holding pen, satisfy these requirements. Make sure cattle can see their destination and their guidance simultaneously, and then know that cattle always crave to come half around you. So prepare their minds to go half around you and send them in the correct destination.
Say this is a calf that's been run through the chute a few too many times. Going through the chute stresses cattle, causing them not to eat like they should. Luckily, Pyramid 5 plus Presponse SQ provides proven protection against key respiratory diseases in a single shot, with just one trip through the chute. Talk to your veterinarian about Pyramid 5 plus Presponse SQ, and soon your calves will relax and eat like a whole different animal.
Hey there folks, I'm Dr. Dan from DocTalk. On behalf of myself and the staff at Drovers, I'd like to invite you to our Cow-Calf Cowboy College in West Des Moines, Iowa on June 20th and 21st. We're going to have speakers such as Mike Apley, Tom Knopfsinger, Chris Reinhardt, and Mr. Dave Nichols from Nichols Angus Farm. For registration, please visit droverscowboycollege.com or call us at 1-877-482-7203. I hope to see you all there.
Broadband has become as important to us as highways. That is why DocTalk is teaming up with NTCA, the Rural Broadband Association, and rural broadband companies like Blue Valley Telecommunications in fighting for quality broadband access through the program Smart Rural Communities.
I don't think we have any idea what's coming in the future. I couldn't have imagined 5 years ago what we're doing today. So in 2 years, I would guess there's things we can't imagine that we're going to be doing.
To learn more, visit ntca.org/smart or bluevalley.net. Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thomson and Dr. Norris Frog. We're here at Kansas State University's College of Veterinary Medicine, where we're both employed, and Dr. Schrag is a clinical assistant professor in the Department of Clinical Sciences. She heads up our ambulatory clinic here at the vet school and does a lot of work with cow herds in the Flint Hills and beyond. And we're talking about flies and the different types of flies, the drugs. Now let's talk about the applications.
Sure. So there's a whole menagerie of ways to apply fly control. And so some of the ones that have been around for a long time, we think about back rubbers or dusters. And when we think about those, first we got to go back to the flies and say, hey, which type of flies are these going to control? So if you're looking at horn flies, back rubbers are a great idea, right? If you're looking at stable flies, they're really not going to do a whole lot. And face flies fall somewhere in the middle there. But the big thing about rubbers or dusters or any of those things that are out in the pen, you can apply it to the back rubber and then go do whatever else you're going to do. It's easy, but you got to remember, if you want them to be effective, the cattle have to use them. So they've got to be en route to a watering tank so that they have to walk through it. Otherwise, your control is going to be pretty minimal with
when you see the cow track around the duster.
Right.
You're like,
yeah,
okay,
then you know it's not really doing as much good as it could be. But if you force the cows to use them, then they're quite effective, especially on horn flies.
Okay.
So that's one thing. And then another one that's been around for a long time is ear tags. And so those are great. You apply them, and then you don't have to worry about them. Most of them are labeled for 3 to 5 months. We think that'll cover most of the fly season. But the tricky thing is, like we were talking about before, some of us are working these calves in April, early May, and really we're not seeing flies in this part of the country peak until early June, maybe mid-June. And so when we start talking about resistance, maybe we ought to be thinking about how soon we're applying those, and if it's at all possible to wait a little later, we should wait on the application of those fly tags.
Yeah, and it makes some sense too, and it'd be interesting to go back to some of these pink eye outbreaks now that we sit here and talk about it, as when did they put the fly tags in, if they put the fly tags in, when did they put them in relative to peak fly season. And just like what you're talking about, if we do it after they breed and intermingle and we actually breed some of the resistance out,
right, then are they more effective?
Yeah. And so it really does beg the question. So thinking about other applications.
So we've got pour-ons.
Yep.
And those work. You just got to get them on the cow. And maybe the struggle with those is if you got nice, quiet cattle and you can walk in the pasture. I mean, I've got clients that throw some cubes out and they can pour their cows and never run them in. That doesn't work with every group of cows. And so the caveat to pour-ons is you got to get it on them frequently. So we figured 3 weeks is probably what you get with most pour-ons. So that's one option. And then foggers and misters. I think they've become more popular maybe in a feedlot setting, but we've also been having some people try using the foggers driving out into the pasture. Those foggers last even a shorter amount of time, so you got to fog them like once a week or so.
So the most of it's going to be in the rubbers and the fly tags and some of those.
Some of these things that last a little longer.
Cool. Well, I remember bathing in organophosphates, Dad and Grandpa's clinic. They'd set up the chute and see which direction the wind was blowing, and I'd be on the other side. So, yeah, my hair is greasy when we get done working cows. Anyway, we come back, we're going to talk about some new stuff with fly control with Dr. Nora Schrag. Thanks for joining us.
When looking at the number of farm and ranch operations, the USDA Census of Agriculture says cattle and beef production is the largest single segment of American agriculture. The census also says the average age of the American cattle farmer or rancher is in the late 50s. In order to support the continuous supply of U.S. beef, these producers need to do some business planning to successfully transfer their cattle operations to younger, independent producers.
I'm Andy Biergo. I'm owner of Biergo Angus Farms with 2 of my sons, Bryson and Drew. We've been in business since 1950, and a family farm's been around for 145 years. And we've, like everybody, we've been through some good times and bad times. And doing well and having things that protect you and go forward, the beef checkoff could be one of the things that makes us global. We go to protect ourselves and protect our trading ability, and And one way or another, we're going to have people that will protect us and do that. I've always had this theory that you're either doing things to advance and do better. I've never been a believer in this, it'll be normal or average. I'm a firm believer that we'll be going one way or the other. And without protection and advertisement and teaching people to believe in what we produce, it's more about producing the consumer. That's our client than maybe it is proving it to ourselves.
For me, one of the most important aspects that the Beef Checkoff provides is sustainability for future generations. My brother and I both have daughters, that we can see a future in the life that our grandfather has lived, that our father has lived, and now that we are getting to be a part of, and also the opportunities out there for our daughters now. It was my dream when I was a little boy to own the home 80 acres, and I've always told my sons that you either need a job well enough you can have hobbies or do what you want, or you need to have a passion for your job and what you do. And I've had a passion for cattle my whole life, and my sons have a true passion for it, and I'm very proud of how they handle the farms. The Beef Checkoff has given us a lot of different opportunities for our daughters to have a chance to come back and be a part of this in the future.
Healthy cows start with the new hired hand automatic livestock sprayer. Rancher invented to provide an efficient alternative to pour-on and injectable parasite management systems. The portable design allows cattle to treat themselves head to hoof. Strategic device placement with pass-through activation technology takes the stress out of parasite treatment for cattle and the rancher, leaving more time to tend to other vital tasks on the farm. To learn more, visit cowsprayer.com. The new hired hand makes healthy cows easy.
Hello friends, I'm Ernie Rodina.
And I'm Dawn Dawson with the Better Horses Radio Show.
For over 9 years, we've been bringing the Better Horses Radio Show to markets all across the Midwest. We talk about God, lots about horses.
We talk about cows, we talk about horse health, we talk to top trainers, and we even talk about Roy Rogers.
We are having a blast with Better Horses Radio Show and would love to take it to a market near you.
So visit our website at betterhorsesradio.com and let us or your local radio station know you'd like to hear it in your area.
The Better Horses Radio Show is unbelievable.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. We're here with Dr. Nora Schrag, and it's great to have her on the show. She's an assistant clinical professor here in the Department of Clinical Sciences and heads up our ambulatory services for food and fiber animals in the Veterinary Health Center. Talking about flies, and there's some new stuff out there, some things that people need to be made aware of as what's going on.
So one of the newer items is that we've always put fly tags in, but now we've got strips. And fly strips are basically the same thing as tags, but instead of punching another hole in that cow's ear, you're just hooking it on the back of the ear tag that's already there. And it works just the same way.
Kind of like an air freshener.
Yeah, it kind of is. You can change it out every year. Yeah, and it depends on the brand whether the strip's cheaper than the tag. Some of them are the same, but you don't have to put another hole in that cow's ear. And some of these cows get kind of owly about getting fly tags put in every year, even if you're hitting the same hole. So that's one option. And then another newer option. This is mostly on the dairy side, but I thought it was kind of interesting. We now have a fly vacuum. So these cows walk in, and you have to get them a little bit used to it, but they walk in and it shoots air at the flies and blows all the flies off in the same direction towards the vacuum and sucks them up. Which for dairy cows, you're not dealing with withdrawal times or anything like that, and you are getting a little bit of fly control. So it's a little expensive to start with. I'm not sure if it's going to catch on, but it is a new deal.
That would be kind of, maybe that's the difference. Maybe we come out with a handheld fly vacuum for in the house instead of a fly swatter, and you don't break a window.
Yeah, there you go. We just vacuum them up. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then one thing that we might make people aware of is there was a recent recall on ear tags. So you might check, if you've put ear tags in this year, check with whoever you purchased those tags from and make sure your tags weren't recalled. There was a little bit of eye irritation. It was a newer drug. So just check and make sure yours are okay.
Okay, so got fly vacuum, fly strips, and make sure that the recall deals, and it just make sure that you're not using tags that were recalled. They're going to cause issues for your cows. you know, it's okay to mention as it's Bayer's product. That, you know, the big thing is Bayer and that has stepped out and said, hey, we're going to recall them, bring them back in, and fix the problem before we have one.
Yeah, and they're really doing a good job of replacing tags and helping people make sure that they get the tags that are causing a problem out of them.
Cool. Well, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Folks, she always does a great job. It's fun to have her on the show. And thank you for watching DocTalk. Remember, always work with your local veterinarian. And if you want to know more about DocTalk, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. Thanks for watching the show today. I'm Dr. Dan Thomson, and I'll see you down the road.
Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com. DocTalk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.